If your website is built using Elementor with Elementor Forms and you want to set up conversion tracking for your contact forms, follow this video and I'll show you how to set it up inside of Google Analytics 4 as well as Google Tag Manager for accurate data tracking. For this video, I'm going to assume that you already have Google Tag Manager and Google Analytics set up properly on your website and accurately tracking data. If not, I'll leave a link above this video right now and that'll show you how to set that up before starting this process. So if you've got your Google tags set up in Google Tag Manager, you should have a tag here that is set up to fire initialization on all pages. And if you have that, you're ready to go. So this is one of the Elementor forms on our client's website. This one is just on the home page, and this is the one that we'll be using as an example in this video. So to track the form submissions on this website, we're going to use the built-in trigger on Google Tag Manager called form submission. On a lot of websites, this trigger isn't that reliable, but if you have a WordPress website with Elementor and Elementor forms, it seems to work just fine. So under triggers here, we want to click on new trigger, trigger configuration, and we want to scroll down to form submission. For now, we're just going to leave this on all forms and we will tidy this up later as we try and make it more accurate. So we just want to call this form submission and we'll save that. So now we just want to test this and click the preview button, fire up Tag Assistant. We've already got the URL saved here, but you want to add the URL of the site and we'll connect that and it will fire up your website. Now the reason we want to do this is just to make sure that everything is firing correctly. So when we loaded the website, the Google tag fired and that's good. And over here, you can see all the other events on the page. So what we want to do is just test firstly what happens when we fire off a form submission without any details. It says, please fill in this field, so you get an error. We just want to make sure that over here, it doesn't say anything like form submission, because if it is firing off just that one button, it means we're going to get really incorrect data when we look at it later. Okay, now we want to do a legitimate form fill just to see what's firing. So I'll write Luca test at gmail.com, 0400 test and send message. Awesome. Your submission was successful. So now we should see it firing in our tag assistant. So here we have two different form submits. This one here is the Google Tag Manager. And this one here is the data layer form submit. We only want to worry about the Google Tag Manager, as this is what we'll be setting up in our analytics. Okay, now if we go back to the Google Tag Manager form submit, you can expand this data here. And if you scroll down to the bottom, the element class shows it is an Elementor form. We're missing an element ID, which we'll add in a second. And if you go over to variables, you can see there's actually nothing to do with form submissions in here. So to fix that, we want to go to Google Tag Manager again, click on variables, that loads. We now want to click on configure, and under forms, we want to just check all of these boxes here and they should add here. Now, when I mentioned before that there was no element ID, a reason you might want to have this is because if there are several forms on a page, there is no way to distinguish which one was which. So if you had this form here, but then say at the bottom of your website, you had like a newsletter form, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference unless you added an ID. So in Elementor, you want to just open with Elementor. We want to click on our form and then scroll down to the bottom, additional options, and you can add a form ID. So this could be home _ page _ form, just like that, and we'll publish it. I'm also going to be doing this to the form that I have on the contact page. So contact page form, publish that. And we also have forms on all of the individual pages. So if I go to the service page, I can add an ID for this one as well. So that way we have an ID for every one of the contact forms on our website. Okay, now we can go back to Google Tag Manager and just preview this again. Connect, submit another test form. Yeah, test, send a message. Submission was successful. Now back to Tag Assistant, we can see the form, the GTM form submit. We look at more data, scroll down, and now we have the Element ID homepage form. So this is how you can just separate all of the contact forms and get a better idea of what page is converting. So now what we have left to do is to set up a trigger for Google Tag Manager. So what we can do is look at the element classes here. And because it's an Elementor form and every other form on the site is Elementor, we can use this text right here so that every time that it picks up this when a form is submitted, it'll fire a tag and it will be counted as an event in Google Analytics. So now we want to go back into Google Tag Manager and we want to update the trigger that we created earlier. This is the one we created called form submission. And if you'll remember, it was set up to fire on all forms. We now want to change this to some forms so that we can track just the Elementor forms on the site. If you don't have it in here, it's called Click Classes. Click this button over here and select Click Classes. Contains, because it's going to contain, and it's going to contain this string of text here. And paste that there. Not sure why that didn't work. And then we'll change this to element form submission and save that. Now this should only fire every time an Elementor form on the site is submitted. The final step is to create a tag that will fire to Google Analytics 4 every time a form is submitted. So we want to go over to tags and create new tag. Click on tag configuration, Google Analytics event, and here you need your measurement ID. So to get this, back over to your Google Analytics, click on admin, data streams, and measurement ID right here. Across, and there it is. Now you need to select an event name, and this is what's going to show up in your Google Analytics reports. What we're going to go here is just form underscore submission. And when you're creating one of these, you need to use the correct string here, which is an underscore between the words. As we discussed earlier, if you wanted to set up the form ID for more accurate tracking, you would just add an event parameter and write form underscore ID. And then for the value, form ID, but I'm not going to worry about that for this one since we only have one form on each page, so I'll delete that. Then we want to come down to triggering and select the trigger we created earlier. And now we'll just name this GA4 form submission and save that. All right, now let's test if this is working properly. We'll go into the preview mode again, connect. So the Google tag is fired, and right now the tag that is not fired is the form submission. So if we go over to the website again and fill out one more test, shoot that off, success. And over here, you can see that it has fired and the event name is form submission. It's an Elementor form, and there you have it. And we can just check one more thing over in Google Analytics, go to admin, scroll down to debug view, and if this is working correctly and sending data to Google Analytics, it'll show up right here as form submission. So now we have a key event or form submission, and it's showing up properly in Google Analytics 4. Now that we're happy that the data is coming through correctly and it is recording the form submissions, we want to go back to Tag Manager and submit this to save our work. We'll just call this form submission element, something like that. It's not too important, and we'll publish that to save work. Okay, now that's all set up. How can you actually see the event in your Google Analytics? So just over here on the left, you want to click on Reports and on Events, and obviously we've got nothing now, but as data and submissions start coming through, this is where you will start seeing all of the events in your tracking. I'll just show you another client of ours so that you can see a live example of what it will look like. In the event section, there are a number of events, but what we're mainly interested in is the contact form submission. So this one's just called contact form. And once you start seeing this in about 24 hours time, you want to come in here and you can click on the three dots and you'll be able to mark it as a key event. So I'll just do it on here, click on this, and now that is what's called a key event. So we want to do that for contact form submissions, phone link clicks, and the email link clicks. And a better way to view that is to just add a filter here, and you write key is a key event, exactly matches true. And there you go. So for this client that's already set up with a contact form, phone link click, and email link click, you can just see all three of their events and the total amount they've had for the given time period. Stay tuned for the next episode where I will show you how to set up conversion tracking for the phone link clicks. So this is also a key event, and we want to make sure we know how many times customers or potential customers are clicking on this per month, as it can help inform our decision making and our strategy going forward in our digital marketing campaign. Cheers.